Welcome to A&E Tutorials. In this tutorial we're going to show you how to do frit painting. You don't have to be a fantastic artist to do frit painting, but if you have some creative talent it certainly helps. We're going to show you how to test the colors, give you some examples of tools that you can use to do frit painting. And the nicest part about frit painting is you're at your own creativity and what you do is your own design. You can become your own Michelangelo. So let's get started. Before frit painting, there are some things you should do, especially if you haven't done any work with frit in the past. Get familiar with the difference between the opaque and the transparent frit. And the next thing, if you're not sure what those are or the numbers are, you might go onto our website and you can make yourself, you can copy right off of the website a chart of the transparent and opaque colors, print it out on a piece of paper so that you have it with you and you can use it anytime that you want. What you want to do before you ever start frit painting is get a feel for what the colors are going to look like. So you're going to cut yourself some pieces of clear glass. They don't have to be very big. And you're going to put some frit on there and then you're going to fire it and select your colors and see what they actually look like before I ever try to paint with it. Group your blues together and group your, and all of these are opaques, and group your greens together and the other colors. Same thing with your transparents. Group them together in colors so that you know what colors that you have and you can see the shades of green and shades of blue and so on and so forth. Next thing to do is actually make the frit casting so that you can see what the colors look like. Our next job is to put our test frit onto the glass, and in doing that you want to remember what colors you have so you know what they are afterwards. It's easy to make up a little diagram which actually then will show, and you can write the colors on there. I'll try and get 5 different colors on there. We'll run from 1114 down through 1112, and you'll know what those colors are from your color chart. Now, one thing about frit is you can hardly put it on too heavy. If you put it on too light, it will barely show any color, particularly if it's transparent. It'll almost fade out. Again, to put it on, there's nothing secret about that. I'm just going to use a little spoon. You might have a couple size spoons around in case you want to use them. We'll zoom in a little bit closer here, and I'm just going to take some of this frit and get some on the spoon and go over the glass, and then very carefully put the frit onto the glass. Now, we don't care if the frit runs into each other, but I'm going to make it fairly thick, particularly on one end for sure, so that I can see what kind of colors I get, and where it thins out the colors will be a little bit lighter. I'm going to do the same thing for the other colors, and then when we're done we'll be ready to put them into the kiln. Alright, this is the 5 strips of colors that I picked to put on there. They're ready to go into the kiln. This is fine frit. You can get anything from powdered, fine, medium, and coarse. The finer the frit is, the more you need to make the color come through. So we're going to try this and see what this comes out and looks like, and that'll give us sort of a color idea or a color chart. Alright, these are the colors that I've chosen to put in the picture. Some of them are transparents, some of them are opals. Pick the colors you think you might want to use in your painting and use those to fire, because then you can see exactly how they look when they were fired on clear glass. So we'll take a look at this, fire them to full fusing, and then we'll see what they look like. Okay, the pieces are done fusing. This is the colors in the kiln. I'm going to take them out and we'll take a little closer look at them and see what they look like outside the kiln. Well, it's a good idea to put the numbers that you had on your paper right onto your glass so you know what the colors are. You can see that the transparents, we'll start with one, are easy to see through. Even that thickness we put on leaves the color very light on some of them. We'll take a look at the next one here. Here we have transparents on the top. And finally we have the 0220 Sunshine Yellow, the opaque on the bottom, and you can see you can't see through it as well as you can through the transparents. Although the darker transparents will make it a little more difficult to see through. And finally we have the all opaques going from the canary yellow down through the orange and the green, the blue, etc. Again, these are good pieces to hang on to because they will remind you exactly what the colors are, and when you want to use a color you'll know which number to pick. You make yourself a bar like this of a lot of different colors, and that's a good way to get started and think about your design. Well, that's where we'll go next.
Artists have what they call the rule of thirds. You put your major focal point in the upper third, right or left, or in the bottom third, right or left. And that's where you put your major focal piece. We'll see some examples. In the picture on the left, the barn is the major focal point, and it's on the lower left. In Van Gogh's Starry Night on the right, he has two focal points. The tree he puts on the bottom left, and the sun he puts on the upper right. The woman in the picture to the left goes all the way from the bottom left to the right, and the Mediterranean village and coast is shown towards the right side, not exactly all the way up to the top as you might expect. But here's a building in the upper left, and the sidewalk comes out, the walkway comes out towards the bottom right, so keep the thirds in mind. The first step when you come up with an idea is to draw it out. You can use a computer or do it by hand, and just lay out sort of the pattern, what you're going to do. Try to keep the third concept in mind. Put down, when you're actually going to do the frits, you want to put down the transparent frits first because they're a lot lighter and brighter to see through. So if you want some lightness showing through, you'll be able to have it with the transparent frits. Then put the darker colors on later. This is what I'm going to try and do, something that looks like this. So we'll see how it turns out as we lay the frit down and fuse it.
The first step is to just outline your drawing, whatever it's going to be, onto your piece of glass. I've picked a piece that's roughly 8 by 10, and I've drawn the lines. I've actually drawn it on the top surface. You could draw it underneath if you wanted to and then turn the glass over, but if you do that you have to remember to draw it backwards. And I'm going to put on the basic frit onto here and fuse it. We'll take several fusing to finish the picture up and get all the details that we want in. So we'll get started with the frit. One of the first tools to have around is a couple soft brushes. They make it nice to actually take your frit and pull it up to where your lines are to clean your glass off. Keep your frit and glass clean underneath. This is not an exacting process. We can also use sifters and some other tools we'll talk about later. Okay, we've finished the process, or continued the process, I should say, using just a spoon and a paintbrush. I want you to notice that I've left some clear spots in here, and that's where the flowers are going to go, and we want that clear to go all the way through here, because when you put, unlike painting, when the paint dries you can paint on top of it and keep your color. Once this dries and is fused, when you put more color on top and you heat it, the colors are going to fuse together. So you're going to get a mixture of whatever colors you put, and if you're not careful you'll get a muddy picture. So what we're going to do is to put some orange into these spots here, and it'll be the only opaque that's on this particular drawing right now at this time. So we'll do that and then show you what we're finally going to have before we put it in the kiln. Okay, we're ready to put it in the kiln for the first firing. We've got some opaque orange, and we put a little opaque woodland brown on top of the translucent. And we'll fire it and see what we have. Okay, we're out of the kiln. As you can see, our translucent colors are show up nicely. The darker opaque colors, of course, show up dark. So what we're going to do now is add some opaque colors to the picture, the scene, and we're going to try and get the opaques going on both sides, coming towards the middle, where we can leave a lighter stretch in the middle to act like lights or highlights in the picture. So that'll be our next step. Alright, we've added some more opaque frit, trying to mix some of the colors together so that they'll blend in when we fire them. So let's fire them and see what we get. Okay, this is how it appears after this firing. Now we're going to see if we can add just a little more definition to it, put in some highlights. We'll maybe mix some colors together and put them on, and then we'll see how it looks. Alright, we've added some coarse frit, and what we're going to do is we're going to fire this instead of 1500 to a full fuse. We're going to fire this about 1350 and try to give the glass some texture with the coarse frit. So let's fire it and see what we get. Alright, this is our finished painting. As you can see, it looks like it has a little more definition with the colors standing out that way by having a little texture. As we zoom in closely, we can actually see the texture that's there, and it sort of looks a little bit like a Monet dot painting. But that's how we go about doing a frit painting, and we'll discuss some other things about frit painting next. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial on frit painting. You should have learned a number of things. The most important is probably that I'm not an artist. Never was, never will be. Those of you who have more creative talent will be able to make much nicer pictures than I did. But the basics are there. You can use frit and stringers, noodles, confetti, a lot of things you can put into your picture. You can have other embellishments and castings and so on and so forth that you might want to put in there. The idea of adding texture helps bring the picture out, whether you use large or medium size or even the fine, and not cook it quite as hot so that you get some texture. It helps pull the picture towards the foreground. You saw us use a brush and a spoon. That's basically all we used. You can buy screens for sifting to sit on. You can do mesh wire and use it that way. If you're having trouble holding the frit in place, hairspray will work for that. There's a number of ideas like that and tools that you can try to do. Some people simply use a credit card to scrape the frit where they want it to go. Anyway, get in there, get yourself some frit and get started. And for those of you who have a lot of creative talent, I would like to see some of your finished pictures. So send me a copy and I'd be glad to post them on the website. Have a nice time and enjoy the experience of doing frit painting.